Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are going to go ahead and jump in. This is this is our back to school kickoff for formative. We're so happy that you're here with us today. And as a former teacher, I always loved the start of the school year. I think it's because the beginning of the year is a natural time to reset, refocus, and really think about what we want to do differently or better in the coming year. And so, in that spirit, my hope is that today's session gives you a few clear, practical ideas for how formative can help you support teachers, strengthen instruction, and make smart use of the data that you have available at your fingertips. This is really the perfect time to set the tone for meaningful, manageable data practices. And I'm really looking forward to exploring how formative can help you do that. I also want to say that I know how busy this time of year is for you. So the fact that you're here today speaks volumes. So thank you so much. Whether you are just getting started with formative or whether you've been using it for a while, our goal for today is the same. We want to help you kick off the year with data practices that are effective, sustainable, and supportive of the work that you're already doing. So before we jump in, let's get a quick pulse of where everyone's at in formative. In the chat, please drop the number that best describes your experience level with formative. So you'll drop a 1 if you're brand new, a 2 if you've logged in and explored the platform before, and a 3 if you've reviewed reports and analyzed student data. Take a moment, share the number in the chat that best applies to you, and there's no wrong answers here. Thanks, everyone. A question like this would be a great way to see where your teachers are at with formative at the start of the school year as well. So I would definitely recommend sharing a question like this because their responses can help you determine the type of support that is needed, help you figure out who your go-to formative champions might be, and also help you decide where you want to focus your PD or your coaching efforts. And when it comes to PD, we are definitely here to help you. We offer a variety of engaging professional learning sessions for really every experience level with formative, whether someone is just getting started or whether they're ready to go deeper. We also have tons of resources to support you. We've got onboarding guides, support articles, self-paced courses, and more. And so we'll be sharing some resources with you in the chat throughout our time together today. All right, here's what we are going to accomplish in our time together. We're going to begin by grounding ourselves in what a balanced assessment framework looks like. And we'll talk about why it's such a powerful anchor for instructional decision-making. Then we'll explore how Formative's balanced assessment suite helps bridge the gap between what is happening in classrooms with the bigger goals that are happening at the district level. And then throughout our time together, I'll be sharing tips, suggested routines, and resources that can help you build data practices that feel really doable and scalable all year long. We've also got Michelle supporting us in the chat. So as we go, please be vocal. You already are. Thank you for sharing where you're joining from. And as we go, please share your ideas, connect to your experiences with using formative. I know some of us have been using it. And feel free to ask any questions that you have. We'll try our best to answer as many as we can. If we're unable to answer your question, we'll make sure to follow up and we'll get you answers to any of the wonderings that you have. My name is Alyssa. I'm a professional learning manager, which means that I work closely with schools and districts to make sure that leaders and teachers are getting the most out of the tools that they're using, especially when it comes to instruction and assessment. I'm based in Chicago, and before this role, I was an elementary teacher. So I like to always keep one foot in what's practical and impactful for teachers and for students and for leadership. And so as we go, I'll share with you some of my favorite parts of formative as well. I'm really excited to be here with you today to explore how formative can support your goals and help you turn data into meaningful action at your schools. And then later on in the session, I'll be pointing out the reports that you have access to in your admin tab. So I do encourage you to sign on and access your formative account now so that you can follow along with me. And that demo will take place later on, but if you have your demo or your formative account up, you'll be able to follow along with me during the demo. All right, so we're going to start off by talking about the bigger picture, the why behind our work. At the end of the day, it's not just about collecting scores or clicking through reports. It's really about building an assessment culture that actively supports teaching and learning in the moment, not just after the fact. And so that's where the balanced assessment framework comes in. It gives us a foundation for thinking about assessment not as a final step, but as a continuous process that informs our instruction, supports student growth, and connects directly to your school or district's larger goals. So before we get into the specifics of how formative can help, we'll take a moment to break down the balanced assessment framework. What is it? Why does it matter? And how can it shape the way that we use formative this school year? We're going to start off with a challenge that probably feels familiar to you. I want you to think about and picture your teachers doing what they do best. They're teaching, they're checking for understanding, they're making those small but mighty instructional pivots in the moment based on what students are showing them right then and there. Your teachers are using warm ups, exit tickets, reflections, journal entries, you name it. And these daily touch points are packed with insight. They reveal how students are thinking, the information that they're holding on to, and where they might be starting to slip and need more support. But the challenge is that those insights typically stay in the classroom. So a bell ringer might get a quick scan, or a quiz might get graded and handed back with feedback, but they kind of stay in the realm of the classroom. The feedback loop is there, but it stops short of informing anything beyond that day or beyond that class. And so now we'll zoom out to your perspective as a school or district leader. You are thinking about and looking at big picture data like benchmarks, interim assessments, even state test results. And that kind of data is also important because it helps guide decisions around curriculum, pacing, system-wide supports. But the reality there is by the time that data arrives, the window to act on it has often passed. So as a result, we end up with these two disconnected systems, like you can see here in the illustration. We've got one where daily in the moment insights live quietly in the classroom. And then we've got another one where broader assessment data arrives too late to support immediate instruction. Both of them matter, but when they operate in isolation, we really miss the opportunity to tell a complete story about student learning. And even more importantly, we miss the opportunity to act on that story in a timely way. So now I want you to imagine, what if those pieces worked together? What if the everyday insights from classrooms actually connected with your larger assessments to tell one clear, cohesive story, almost like they're talking to each other? Wouldn't it be amazing if you didn't have to wait until your first benchmark in October to know how things were going because you already had a clear idea by week one? That is what a balanced assessment framework makes possible. It brings together those daily in the moment checks that help teachers adjust instruction on the fly, and the larger strategic assessments that help guide school and district level decisions. When both assessment types work together in harmony, so many good things happen because teachers are more informed, students get a more seamless, more responsive learning experience, and then leaders like you have the real-time insight that you need to support student growth, not just at the end of a unit or the end of a semester, but really at any point throughout the school year. Now that we understand why a balanced assessment framework matters, let's break down its key characteristics so we can see what exactly makes it balanced. There are three key characteristics to keep in mind. First is that it uses a variety of different assessment types, so everything from exit tickets to periodic benchmarks. Each type serves a clear purpose and has a specific role to play. Second, no matter the format or the frequency, each assessment is tightly aligned to your instructional goals. So that means that teachers aren't just assessing to check a box, but they're collecting information intentionally. That information supports what students are learning in order to help them figure out what comes next. And then third, the data doesn't live in silos. It's centralized and accessible. So teachers, coaches, leaders can all work from the same information. And that shared visibility is amazing because it helps keep instruction aligned, it supports timely interventions, and really just ensures that everyone is moving in the same direction and on the same page. So now that we've unpacked what a balanced assessment framework looks like and why it matters, we're going to shift to the how. How do we actually bring that vision to life in practice? And this is where formative comes in. Formative is built to support exactly this type of balance. We have our balanced assessment suite, which gives you everything that you need to connect what's happening in classrooms every day with your big picture goals. When you invest in our balanced assessment suite, you're not just getting formative, you're getting formative plus a full toolkit designed to make assessments more secure, more aligned, and more accessible. And you can see the full toolkit here. I'll briefly go through each one, and we'll start off with the Respondus lockdown browser. So the lockdown browser is important because you want the data you're collecting to be secure. And sometimes it's hard when students are taking assessments on the computer and they have multiple tabs open. So with our lockdown browser, you can create a secure environment where students can't switch tabs, they can't copy paste, they can't print or screenshot. So that means that the data you're seeing is actually reflective of what they know. You'll also have access to our advanced AI bundle. And this one is really a game changer for both activity creation and also for equity. And so we'll talk about the many ways that AI can support your teachers and students in formative along the coming slides. Third thing you'll get is our item bank, which has thousands of high quality questions mapped to standards for ELA, math, social studies, and science. So instead of spending prep periods trying to create their questions from scratch, teachers can build assessments quickly and also with confidence, knowing that their assessments are rigorous and aligned. And then last, some districts want to go even further. And so that's where our services come in. You can actually partner with our team to design common assessments that align to your curriculum and standards, or you can use our help to support your rollout strategically across schools. I have a question for all of you who are joining us. Which of these tools or services do you think would almost immediately solve a pain point in your building or district? Take a second and share your thoughts in the chat. Which of these tools or services would almost immediately solve a pain point for you? Lockdown browser, yep, we hear that a lot. Yeah, translations. Thanks for calling that out, Cynthia. That's part of our AI bundle is AI can now translate text into over 40 languages, which is really, really exciting. Yeah, a lot of us are excited about the lockdown browser, the services that are provided to you, our AI bundle. Thanks everyone for sharing. It's always helpful to know for us what is really resonating with all of you. Formative gives you a true one-stop shop where every assessment can be built, delivered, and scored all in one place. And so we'll look at that on the Formative platform. The Create button on the homepage is the starting point. With just a few clicks, teachers can build a quick warm-up, an exit ticket, or a quiz. Those are all things that we call formatives. They can do this using a wide range of question types, and they can also add content to their assessments. Not only that, but they can design lessons that include their presentable lesson content alongside checks for learning to assess students in the moment and also increase engagement. And then when you're ready to scale up, the same tools allow teams to collaborate and design common assessments like you see here that are aligned to standards and goals. So the great thing about formative is that no matter the purpose, every assessment lives in one ecosystem, which makes it super easy to track growth, give feedback, and make instructional decisions faster. In addition to the toolkit components that I mentioned a moment ago and that you can see called out here on the slide, I also want to share that teachers have access to over 20 tech-enhanced question types. So questions like drag and drop, hot text, matching, fill in the blank, and more. And they can even go so far as to tag each question to standards so that the data that you get actually means something. So let's look at that with an assessment that I've built on Formative. Here's an assessment that I built on Formative. You can see that I've included content as well as questions alongside my content. So the content is like an input that students gather, and then they respond via multiple question types. I've got an inline choice question, multiple selection, true, false, and more. And the best part is I can tag all of my questions to standards, so I can track student performance according to those learning outcomes. The best part about this is that all of your assessment data lives in one place, giving you a clear, real-time view of student performance aligned to standards. So you no longer have to piece together insights from different tools or spreadsheets. It's all in one place, centralized. We'll dive into reports in just a moment, but here's an overview of the benefits of having all assessment data in Formative. The first is that you can track performance across schools, grades, and subjects thanks to common assessment tagging. You have access to data dashboards that give you a top-down view so that you can spot trends and gaps fast. And then the real-time data means that you don't have to wait until the end of a unit or quarter. You can act immediately on what you see at any point in the year. One of the toughest parts of teaching, at least for me, was trying to keep up with everything, trying to keep up with planning, grading, and meeting the needs of every student all at once. And so what I personally love about Formative is that there are so many features that I think will really resonate with teachers, because these features make it easier to plan, personalize, and respond in the moment. So I want to call out some of my favorite features with the assessment that I showed you a moment ago. And so this time, we'll look at the student experience of the assessment. So here was the assessment I built, but I can click preview to see it from the student perspective. Okay, so these were some of the questions that we looked at earlier. But one thing I love that teachers can do is they can include a question that's auto-graded. That can be done to simplify their grading, but then at the same time, they can pair an auto-graded question with this show your work feature. So the grading is done for them, but then they're still able to see the steps that students took to arrive at their answers. And students can show their work in a variety of ways. They can draw, they can type, they can upload an image. So there's lots of different options that they have here. I also love all of the built-in supports that are available, like adding answer choice explanations or hints for students. So here's an example of what a student would see. Here's a hint that they can view, and the teacher will get a notification that the student took advantage of that hint. Then, during or after the assessment, teachers can give feedback in ways that meet different learning needs. So I can leave voice notes to students, or I can provide visual feedback like a quick reteach video. There's really so much that you can do. And to make everything even more manageable, Formative includes built-in AI tools that can generate questions, that can build practice sets, or even full lessons based on standards. It can take materials that you've used in the past, like a PDF assessment, and turn it into a digital activity in seconds. And it can translate our text into over 40 languages. And so what all of this means is faster planning, smarter scaffolding, and more time for teachers to focus on instruction, which is what they do best. And today we have a very exciting announcement. We're introducing Luna. It's now live to all users, and Luna is your new AI-powered assistant. The way that Luna shows up in Formative is that when teachers are building assessments in Formative, they'll be able to have a conversation with Luna. So they'll be able to share what they're looking to create, like a quiz or an exit ticket, the topic or the standard that they're looking to assess. They can even include the types of questions that they would like generated. Luna will ask some follow-up questions to get clarity around the precise goals for the assessment. And then the best part is that Luna will create the entire assessment. And adding on to that, if teachers want to modify or update the assessment, they can chat with Luna to make the necessary changes. So everything that you've known about formative before this point and everything that we'll learn about today, it's all still true. All of the features, the activity types, the capabilities, but now Luna will make it even easier to get started and get creating. The best part is that the more consistently that teachers use formative, the more powerful the results. So let's look at what the research says about using formative consistently throughout the school year. Formative is a research-backed platform that's been proven to positively impact student achievement. Our platform is supported by multiple ESSA Tier 3 studies and the highest level of evidence demonstrating that students who regularly use formative show significant improvement across subject areas. I want you all to take a look at this graph because what it shows is pretty compelling. The more exposure that students have to questions in formative, the more that their reading and writing scores grow over time. Doesn't stop there though. Research has also shown that the number of numeric questions students answer on formative is directly linked to higher math achievement. Because we know that consistent use of formative drives real gains in reading, writing, and math, it's so important to help teachers get started using it right away in the beginning of the school year. One easy and effective strategy is to encourage teachers to make something like this, the student formative tutorial. The reason that this is great, it's a fun, low stakes way to get students started using formative at the beginning of the school year. This gives students a chance to try out different question types, get familiar with the platform early on, but not only that, it gives teachers a chance to learn more about their students and begin collecting data from day one. So they start building that habit of assessing and reviewing the data that is generated. They could even begin building a beginning of the year activity that's more content area focused. I could even imagine using Luna for this. If I'm an ELA teacher, I might use Luna to help me build a reading interest inventory on formative that asks students about their favorite genres, authors, where they like to read, book characters that they've connected with, or how they like to engage with texts. And that will allow me to begin gathering data on my students, but also will give students a chance to practice the different question types that we'll be using throughout the year. After teachers introduce formative in a low stakes way, then encourage them to make formative a consistent part of their daily classroom routines. This could be done in a question of the day format or with exit tickets, quick reflections, or bell ringers. These short, consistent checks for learning are really easy to build, and they give teachers the real-time data that they can use to tailor their instruction. And so setting this expectation early helps teachers build strong habits of regularly gathering insights. Every time students interact with an activity in formative, they are generating real-time data that teachers can use immediately to respond to needs in the moment. And then for all of you as administrators, that data adds up to something really powerful because you have access to live reports that give you a clear view of how formative is being used across classrooms and schools. So in a moment, we'll jump into the platform and explore the insights that are available to you from within the admin tab of your account. If you're signed into formative, then I encourage you to follow along with me. I'll give you a moment here to sign in if you haven't already. And when you are signed in, if you could share something like I'm ready or I'm signed in the chat, then I'll know that you're ready to continue. Perfect. It looks like we're signing in. All right. When you sign in to your formative account, it looks like we're all signing in. Perfect. Let's talk about how to get to your admin tab. It's really easy. All you'll do is click admin on that left side panel of your formative account. And when you do that, you are going to have access to different reports that will allow you to see how teachers and students are using formative and how that use is driving instruction and outcomes. So what I'm going to do is I'll walk you through each report and highlight how, when, and why you might use it. When you're in your admin tab, we're going to start off with the Common Assessments report. This is where you'll be able to get visibility into every common assessment that's been administered across your school or district. On the right, you'll be able to apply filters to narrow down your search. So you'll be able to filter by time period. So if I'm looking at this, I want to see assessments that were just administered in the last week. I can filter for the last 7 days. I also can filter and look at assessments by org, by academic year, subjects, grade levels, or assessment type. We'll do grade level and we'll look at 6th grade. Great. Once you've applied your filters, you can click the drop down next to an assessment to see who has administered it. So I can tell that this assessment has been administered by 2 teachers. Then I can click into the assessment itself in order to see the insights report. And this report is helpful in preparation for PLC meetings or instructional planning sessions. Okay, in the insights report, you are going to see overall performance on that common assessment. By default, it will include data from all students who have taken the assessment, but you have the option to filter by school, teacher, or class. What I especially like is that you'll see student performance up here in the overall performance aligned to your outline score threshold. So if you customize those in your account settings, you'll see a student breakdown here that directly aligns with the performance buckets and the terminology that you use in your building or district. You are going to use this report to quickly understand how instruction landed. You'll also be able to see where students struggled. You'll be able to see performance by standard and identify whether there was a standard that students struggled with, a question that gave students difficulty with this top 3 underperforming questions report, and you'll even be able to identify question types that students need more practice with. And so this report can be used to help you and your teachers identify where to reteach or differentiate. I would recommend reviewing this report after a common assessment has been administered. Bring this report with you to the PLC or team meeting directly following the assessment and have teams work together to identify 1 to 2 standards or question types where additional support is needed. And then because they're together, they can collaborate and discuss reteaching strategies and plan next steps. Okay, so that's the Common Assessments tab. Next to that, you've got the teacher's report. And this is great because it allows you to dig into how individual teachers are using formative. At a glance, you'll be able to easily identify power users, as well as early formative adopters, or just any teachers who would be good peer mentors when it comes to supporting formative implementation. So when I'm looking at my list of teachers, I can tell that Terrence here is using formative most frequently. And so they might be someone that I could partner with to model best practices or share how they're using formative. If you spot teachers like Terrence who are using formative consistently, we recommend inviting them to complete the Formative Certified Educator course. Upon completion of that course, you might lean on this teacher to speak on formative at a PLC meeting or open up their classroom to model how they use formative in a lesson, for example. From this report, I can click into a teacher to see the assessments that they've assigned and how students did. And I'll also be able to click into that assessment to see more information. So I'm going to click into this bell ringer here. The first thing that I'll see is student responses on the assessment. And so I could go through their responses here on the responses page, But what I also like is that you can click the three dots here up at the top and toggle to where it says Edit Questions. This will allow you to see the assessment itself. The reason why you might want to see the assessment itself is to check for assignment quality, make sure that they're using different question types, and also ensure standards alignment. So here I can see this teacher's using a variety of questions. They've tagged their questions to standards. And so the teacher's report is helpful when you're preparing for a classroom observation or coaching conversations. As a bonus tip, when you click into a teacher's name, you'll also see this button that says View Tracker. And so this will allow you to run a report and see that teacher's classroom data. So you kind of get a window into their classroom data story. Okay, next to the teacher's report, you've got the team tracker. And so you can run a report to see all of the assessments that have been administered within your district, not just ones that are identified or tagged as common assessments. Just like our other reports, you'll be able to apply filters to narrow down the data. So you'll be able to see assessments given by a particular subject area or grade level. What's different about this report and the teacher's report is that in the teacher's report, you're able to click on a teacher's name and see all of the assessments that they've assigned. Whereas in this team tracker, you're able to see all of the assessments and which teachers have assigned it. It looks like my report is taking a moment to load. In this report, you'll be able to see two views. So you'll be able to look at formatives, which means you'll be able to see the assessments that have been administered, or you'll be able to look at standards. And standards will tell you the standards that have been assessed and which teachers have assessed which standards. So since it's taking a little moment to load, I'll show you what this looks like. So here I filtered for social studies and I toggled on standards. So I'm able to see the standards that have been assessed by the social studies teachers within the time period that I filtered for. So I'm looking at the last 7 days. The standards view is great because you're able to see how students are performing across grade level standards. And this is aggregated from multiple assessments. And you'll be able to click these arrows to open the drawers and see each individual standard. And when you hover over the standard live informative, you'll be able to actually see a description of what the standard is. And this is great for identifying district-wide strengths or gaps. So I can easily see right here a standard that needs to be retaught, not just by a single teacher, but by multiple teachers. And so these teachers might collaborate together and design a plan for reteaching this standard. The next report that you have is the progress report, or we call this standards progress over time. And this report gives you a longitudinal view of how students, teachers, classes, and even entire buildings are performing on tagged standards across weeks, semesters, or even the entire school year. I would want you to consider this report as your are we getting there report, because it will allow you to track progress over time across the year and identify whether departments, classes, or students are growing in key focus areas. So let's look at an example of when you might use this report. Let's say a teacher comes to you and they raise concerns about a student's mastery of certain concepts. You can filter for student here to see if this same issue appears across classes, and you can confirm whether it's a pattern or an isolated issue. So I can filter for the student's name. You can also filter for a date range. So if I want to see, if this is persisting across subject areas over the last couple months or few months, I can filter for that here. Then I'm going to be able to click into each standard set one at a time to see if other classes are seeing similar trends over the last few months. If I were to click into this, and I can click into any of these arrows to see their graph, if I were to see flat or declining trends, that would tell me that the student isn't improving. And so I'd want to flag this for the intervention team. Just as a quick note here, since I'm using a demo account, the standards progress over time report doesn't show data across different time periods like it would in your account. So Right now, I just see one graph, but you would actually see a series of graphs. And so I have a photo too of what this looks like. So you'll be able to see whether the student is making progress over time. Couple of things about this report. So we looked at how to filter for student. Other reasons why you might filter by individual student. It could be used when you are holding data meetings with specialists or interventionists. Could be used to identify students showing notable improvements and giving them appropriate recognition, as well as to identify students that are consistently exceeding benchmarks and who are needing enrichment opportunities. You can also filter by teacher. And so you might do this to support a developing teacher. You could look for signs of instructional growth or areas where they may benefit from modeling or co-teaching. And then you also might filter for teacher if you are rolling out a new instruction strategy or you're trying out a new curriculum or PD focus. You can check this report to see if it's translating to student growth on target standards. And then the last option is to filter by org or by team. And so you might do this when you're meeting with a department head or a team lead, or when you're supporting PLCs. You can see how the team's collective instruction is affecting student performance on shared standards. To really make the most out of formative's data, it's all about building simple routines around when and why to check different reports. So we've broken it down into weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Weekly, you want to focus on supporting instruction in the moment. The goal is to stay close to daily instruction and offer real-time support to teachers and teams. And so you can do this in a couple of ways. You can check the teacher report to see who's assigning what, how are students performing, and are teachers assigning and tagging standards consistently. You also can visit the team tracker to identify inconsistencies in standards coverage and spark conversations in PLCs or department meetings. Monthly, your goal will be to spot trends and target gaps. So after a common assessment is administered, visit the common assessments report and dig into the insights report to see which standards need reteaching, which question types need more practice. You also can use the standards progress over time report to see how student understanding is shifting over time. And you can identify where intervention is needed and which standards are showing slow to no growth. Then last, quarterly, you're going to use long-term trends to guide strategic decisions. So you'll continue to monitor the standards progress over time report across grades, teams, and schools to see, are students progressing on priority standards and where are their strengths and gaps? You also can combine the standards progress over time data and common assessment trends to determine whether you need to adjust curriculum pacing or design targeted PD or set goals for the next quarter or semester. One thing that I want to emphasize is that these reports that we've looked at are only as valuable as the data going into them. So without consistent student activity, the insights that you get will be limited, which makes it harder to track progress or make informed decisions. And so to reiterate what I said earlier, as an administrator, one of the most effective things that you can do is encourage teachers to make formative part of their existing classroom routines by incorporating regular, quick checks for learning into their instruction. And you'll see some ideas on this slide of ways that teachers can do that. This calendar shows how easily formative can be woven into existing classroom routines. It's really designed to fit into instruction. So we'll take a look at just how easily it can become part of the flow of a typical week in the classroom. On Monday, a teacher might introduce a new concept in formative, and they can do that in the form of a lesson. They might import their Google Slides, add video or audio, as well as any other lesson content alongside our interactive question types to support student engagement while the lesson is delivered. They can even present and deliver the lesson directly in formative, so student data stays in the formative platform. Then by Tuesday, we're checking for understanding with AI-generated standards-aligned questions and reviewing student responses in real time to catch misconceptions. This data can be used to help teachers decide where in the moment support and additional reteaching is needed. Midweek, the teacher might be pulling groups for reteaching while students engage in independent practice and concept reinforcement using practice sets. Students can create their own, and our practice sets can be engaged with in different modes. So we've got flashcard, matching, quiz, and fill in the blank. And so these modes allow for skills reinforcement while also catering to different learning preferences. That brings us to Thursday, where teachers are using formative to deliver standards-aligned quizzes while also offering accommodations or hints or answer choice explanations as additional supports within the assessment. And they'll be able to monitor progress in real time from the moment students begin completing the assessment. And then finally, Friday becomes a time for reflection, analyzing data, meeting with teams, and planning targeted instruction for the week ahead. We want to make sure that you are set up for success this school year. So we are going to wrap up by sharing some resources that you can use and share to help your educators. Our Getting Started Hub is your one-stop shop for everything that you need to start the school year strong with formative. On it, you'll see a tour of the formative platform, instructions for how to sign in, a summary of the resources that are available, tips for assigning content, and a rundown of the reports that are available. So we'll share that in the chat so you can easily access it. I would recommend bookmarking it so you can access it throughout the year. We also have a number of exciting events planned for this back to school season. Today is just the beginning of it, or this week is just the beginning of it. So in the chat, we'll also be sharing a link to our event schedule that includes Getting Started workshops, live support office hours, more formative kickoff events in August and September, and even live formative certified educator workshops. So if you have a formative power user in your building or district, definitely recommend that they take our FCE course, and they can be someone who supports others in implementing formative this year. So please join these events and communicate these opportunities to your teachers so that they can attend too. This back to school season, we're also launching 4 new micro-credential courses. These are shorter than our FCE course. These are only 30 minutes, so teachers can really get certified in one prep period and learn everything that they need to take advantage of their subscription. So we do have one for formative foundations if you're interested. To keep things fresh and fun this year, you can subscribe to receive our monthly formative communications. That will include our content calendar, like you see here, as well as easy to share tips and activities, handy resources, recommendations, and more. And then finally, you can use either of the QR codes that you see here to follow us on Instagram and also to join the Newselaverse Facebook community. So you'll see the QR code for Instagram on the left, Newselaverse on the right. We recommend that you join both so that you can stay connected to all things formative. Keep that up if you are scanning the QR codes. But thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here. If there was something that you're walking away with that you're excited about, please share it in the chat. And thank you so much. We are wishing you the best start to your year. Thanks everyone so much.